The ruined mining station on Celeron 4 floated in silence above the gray moon. Broken metal panels drifted in space like dead leaves in the wind. The lights flickered across the empty corridors. This place once held 3,000 workers, but now it was just dust and memories. Commander Elias Mercer, a human diplomat from Earth, stood at the edge of the station's landing bay. He wore a slim black pressure suit with a white Terran crest on the chest. His dark hair was messy, and his boots were scratched from too many missions. In one hand, he held a small translator device. In the other, nothing, because his gun had been taken away. Across from him stood 4 tall Valari, warriors, pale-skinned aliens with sharp silver armor, bright glowing eyes, and weapons aimed at Ilias's chest. Their spears were advanced, plasma lances humming softly. "Do not move, human," one of them said in a deep robotic voice. Elias didn't move, but he smirked. "Yeah, wouldn't want to ruin the first date." The Valari didn't laugh. Of course they didn't. The Valari Empire was cold, serious, and proud. They had no sense of humor, and definitely no love for humans. Not since the Karnax border conflict, where both sides nearly destroyed each other 5 years ago. Elias had been sent here as a last chance. Earth's leaders hoped for peace. The Valari had agreed to talk, but only at this broken station, and only under their terms. Now, Elias wondered if this was all a trap. From behind the warriors, a 5th figure stepped forward. She wasn't wearing armor. Instead, she had a dark, violet robe with golden embroidery. Her face was softer, her features less cold than the others. Long silver hair fell over her shoulders, and her deep violet eyes studied Elias like a puzzle. She looked curious and young, maybe no older than 20 in human years. "You are Elias Mercer," she said. Her voice was calm but strong. "Terran envoy." "That's me," Elias replied. "And you are?" The other Valari looked uncomfortable. One of them whispered, "Princess, you should not." She raised her hand to silence him. Then, turning back to Elias, she said, "I am Zelia Tari Valrune, daughter of Empress Kelnira, scholar of the 12 archives. Third in line to the Valari throne." Elias blinked. "A princess? They sent a princess to talk peace?" She said. "I came on my own, against orders." Elias grinned. "Ah, a rebel. I like that." Zelia tilted her head slightly, unsure of the tone in his voice. "You speak with strange rhythm, you joke." Leah said, "Humans do that. It keeps us sane." She stared at him a moment longer, then walked closer. The guards looked nervous, but didn't stop her. "Your kind is strange," she said, loud, illogical, unrefined, but brave. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Is that your idea of a compliment?" "I'm still deciding," she said. For a long second, neither spoke. Then Elias smiled. "Ah!" A real one this time. He looked at her, this young alien princess standing tall in a war-torn station, surrounded by armed guards and old anger, and said, in a light, teasing tone, "Hey, sweetie." The room went still. The guards tensed. Psst. One even raised his weapon slightly. Zelia's eyes widened. Her pale violet skin turned a deeper shade of purple, a clear Valari sign of embarrassment. Her mouth opened slightly. She looked like she had been hit with a surprise question she didn't study for. Elias thought he might get shot. Then Zelia giggled. Not a big laugh, just a small, sweet sound like glass bells. But it echoed off the steel walls like music. "Yes, darling," she said softly. Blushing deeper, Elias blinked. "Wait, what?" And then they both laughed. The guards looked shocked. One even lowered his weapon. Zelia covered her mouth, trying to stop herself. "I do not know why I said that. It sounded correct." Elias chuckled. "Careful, princess. People might think you're starting to like humans." And she gave him a small smile. "Perhaps I am curious about one." They moved into the meeting room. It wasn't fancy, just a round table, a few chairs, and flickering lights. But it was the first real peace talk in years. Zelia sat across from Elias. The guards remained outside. "You are not what I expected," she said. "I get that a lot," Elias replied, leaning back. "You have no weapon, no shield, no guards. Have charm and a strong jaw." She raised an eyebrow. "Is that a weapon?" "Only when I smile." Zelia looked confused. Then she laughed again. They talked for hours. Not about treaties or politics, not at first. They talked about books, about Earths, oceans, about Valerie sky gardens. Zelia told him that her people believed emotions were weaknesses. Elias said, "Try falling in love. That'll wreck you worse than any plasma gun." She asked, "Have you?" He hesitated. "Not yet. Maybe soon." Her blush returned. The conversation slowly turned serious. Zelia admitted she came not to negotiate, but to learn. She said the Empress wanted to crush human expansion, that her generals believed humans were reckless, dangerous, and too fast in their growth. "But I think we fear you," she whispered. "Because you do not obey the rules, you make your own, and still survive." Elias leaned forward. "We don't survive. We fight, adapt, and laugh in the face of it all. That is your power," she said. Laugh. Even now. Even at war. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the station. Elias stood up fast. Zelia pulled a blade from her robe. Alarms blared. The door opened. A guard rushed in. "Princess, enemy drones, Valari, drones approaching, Valari," Elias asked. "Your people." She looked pale. "No, not loyal ones." Elias grabbed the translator and a broken chair leg. It wasn't much, but he'd fought with worse. "You ready to fight, sweetie?" he asked with a grin. Zelia, gripping her blade, smiled back. "Starling." The hallway shook again as another blast hit the station. Red lights flashed, and smoke filled the air. Metal panels cracked and sparks flew from the ceiling. A warning voice repeated in 3 languages. "Structural failure detected. Evacuate." Immediately, Commander Elias Mercer didn't wait. "Move," shouted, grabbing Princess Celia's hand. She didn't resist. She had already drawn her slender energy blade, its violet edge humming in the air. Behind them, Valerie guards fought incoming drones, dark, spider-shaped machines flying through the corridors, shooting plasma bolts in all directions. "This is a trap," Zelia muttered as they ran. "But it's not from your side. These are Valari assassin drones." Elias ducked as a plasma bolt whizzed past. "Well, remind me to send your people a thank you card." They rushed through the corridor toward the old hangar bay. The floor was shaking beneath their feet. The station wouldn't hold for long. "Where's your ship?" Elias asked. "My personal skiff is hidden on the far deck," Zelia said. "Small, fast, and not supposed to be here." "You broke the rules?" "I told you. I came without orders." Elias grinned even while running. "Rebel royalty. I like it." Escape from Celeron for the hangar was in chaos. The 2 drones had made it inside, firing at anything that moved. One of Zelia's guards was already down. Another fought with his spear but was losing. Elias grabbed a dropped plasma pistol and slid behind cover. "You got a plan?" Zelia said. "We survive." She leaped forward, flipping through the air with grace that surprised Elias. Her blade sliced through the first drone in one clean move, cutting it in half. Sparks flew. "Nice," Elias muttered. He aimed and fired at the second drone, hitting it in the eye sensor. Machines spun out and exploded midair. Smoke rose. Silence followed. Elias coughed. "You fight like a Jedi." "I do not know what that is," Zelia said. "I'll take it as praise." She ran to a small, sharp-shaped ship hidden in the corner of the hangar. The hull was dark metal with Valerie symbols painted along the side. "It's cloaked from long-range scans," she explained. "My mother does not know I have it." Elias followed her inside. The ship's interior was elegant, smooth silver walls, glowing control panels, and 2 slim pilot seats. "Fancy ride," he said, dropping. Into the co-pilot chair, Zelia sat beside him and started the engines. "Hold tight." The skiff roared to life, lifted off the floor, and shot out through the half-open hangar doors, just as the station behind them exploded. They flew into open space, dodging debris. The stars spread out around them like tiny fires in the dark, and, unlikely due several hours passed, they had escaped Celeron 4, but they were deep in neutral space. No Terran stations nearby, no Valerie support either. Only a few ancient satellite relays, old comets, and silence. Elias sat with his boots up on the control panel, sipping from a water pouch. "Tell me something," he said. "Why does your empire hate us so much?" Zalia didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on the stars. "We were once alone," she said. "The Valerie ruled 12 sectors in peace for over 1,000 years. No one dared challenge us. Until humans came," Elias finished. She nodded. "You expanded quickly. Fought back when told to kneel. And worse, you laughed during it all. My people don't understand you." Elias smiled. "That's fair. Most humans don't understand humans either." She glanced at him. "But I am curious. I've studied Earth's culture, watched your broadcasts, read your old writings. Me guess Shakespeare and war records. I watched something called stand-up comedy." Elias almost choked on his water. "White who watched comedy?" Zelia looked slightly embarrassed. "Yes. At first I thought it was punishment. Then I started laughing. I was alone in my private study, and I laughed." She looked down. "That was the day I stopped believing. The Empire's stories." Elias watched her in silence. Not as a soldier, not as a princess. Just a girl who had laughed when she wasn't supposed to. "That's the thing about humans," he said softly. "Fight. But because we change people. Trouble finds them just as the moment grew quiet." The ship's alarm blared. "Unknown vessel approaching," the computer said. Elias leaned forward. "Is that one of yours?" Zelia checked the screen. Her face grew tense. "Worse? It's Velari. Inquisition class." "Elite hunters. Great," Elias muttered. "Tell me you've got weapons." "Minimal. This is a scholar's ship, not a fighter." He stood up. "Then we run." Zelia turned the ship sharply, engines flaring. The skiff shot into a nearby asteroid field, a massive belt of floating rocks lit by a nearby red star. Behind them, the enemy ship followed, firing energy beams. The skiff shook violently. "Hold her steady," Elias shouted. "I am not trained for this," Zelia replied. "I am." He jumped into the pilot seat. "I flew cargo runners through meteor storms back home." She hesitated, then moved over. "You better be good." Through the storm, Elias took the controls and dived the skiff through the asteroids. Huge rocks flew past them, some the size of cities. The enemy ship was faster, but not smarter. Elias zigzagged through narrow gaps, spun between drifting stones, and even used a large rock as cover. "You are insane," Zelia shouted, holding onto the dashboard. "I've been called worse." A blast hit their wing. The ship spun. Elias stabilized it at the last second, then pointed toward a cluster of tight rocks. "There, that gap's too small for them." "Never make it. Bet you a drink I will." He pushed the engines to full power. The skiff flew like a bullet, sliding between two spinning rocks, just barely fitting. The enemy ship tried to follow too late. It clipped a rock, spun, and exploded. In a bright orange blast, Elias leaned back and let out a long breath. "Told you." Zelia looked at him, amazed. "That was impressive." "I told you I had a strong jaw. Also good reflexes." She smiled. "Maybe humans are more than animals after all," he grinned. "You're starting to sound like a Terran already." They landed on a hidden Terran outpost station, Zephyr. It's floating just outside mapped space. It was small, half-broken, and smelled like oil. But it was safe. Elias reported the attack. Zelia stayed hidden, not ready to show her face, as she stood in the control room's shadows. Watching humans laugh and work together, she whispered, "Your people are so chaotic." "We call it creativity," Elias said, "and yet we live." "That's kind of our thing," he said. "We mess up, laugh, get up, and keep going." She looked at him thoughtfully. "Maybe the galaxy needs more of that." He offered her a bottle of Terran soda. Careful, first taste may cause addiction. She sipped it hand, coughed. This is poison. Nope, that's just flavor. She laughed again. It was real, warm, and full of light as they sat together on a bench. Staring out at the stars, Elias bumped her shoulder lightly. You know, he said, for an alien princess, you're kind of fun. And for a reckless idiot, she said, you're not completely unbearable. They looked at each other and smiled. And somewhere in that quiet moment of laughter and strange soda, something between them changed. The old station Zephyr groaned as it orbited a dying white dwarf. It was ugly, patched together with scrap metal and spare parts from 5 different eras. Half the lights didn't work. The coffee tasted like rust, but to Elias Mercer it felt like home. And for now, it was safe. Inside a dark corner of the station. Behind sealed doors and hacked scanners, Princess Zeliatar Valrune leaned against a metal wall, arms crossed. She wore a loose Terran jacket, now too big for her.
Ow.
Sleeves rolled up butter. Royal posture hadn't changed. Elias handed her a bowl of warm noodles. She looked at it like it might explode. You eat this? She asked, raising a silver eyebrow. Only on special occasions, Elias said, like when we don't die in an asteroid chase. Zelia picked up the plastic fork and took a small bite. Her eyes widened slightly. It's salty, strange, but not terrible. That's high praise from a Valerie. She gave him a side glance. Do you always joke in dangerous times? Only when I'm scared? Her expression softened. So you're scared now? Eli shrugged, a little. An enemy ship just tried to kill us? You're a royal fugitive. And the people back on Earth don't even know you're here. Zelia looked down. The Empress will declare war if she finds out I survived, or worse, she think I've betrayed her. And have you? Elias asked. She didn't answer right away. I don't know, she whispered. All I know is, I don't want this war. Whispers of troubled ate her. That day, Elias sat with his old friend, Raya Quinn, the engineer of Station Zephyr. Her short red hair was oily, her sleeves rolled up, and she had a tool in each hand. You brought a Valerie princess into my station? She asked, tightening a bolt without looking. She's cool, Elias said. She's dangerous. So, am I? Raya looked up. This isn't a joke, Elias. You've got half the galaxy looking for her. Do you know what the bounty is? No. 4 million credits, Elias whistled. That's flattering, Raya glared. You're not thinking clearly. He leaned closer. She saved my life. Twice. She wants peace. And she's starting to see things our way? Raya sighed. She's still Valeria. Her people burned 3 of our colonies. I know, Elias said quietly, but maybe she's different. The broken transmission that night. Elias worked alone in the station's dusty communications bay, trying to repair the long-range transmitter. Static buzzed in his ear. He adjusted a few dials. Suddenly a voice cut through the noise. 2. All Valari ships. Princess Zeliatari is now considered a traitor. Terminate on sight. No trial, no capture. Full purge. Elias froze. Then another message came. This one scrambled and weak, but different. Elias Mercer, if you hear this, do not trust anyone. They're coming. They know she's with you. Signal cut. Elias stared at the radio. That voice had been from General Halden, one of Earth's military leaders, and Elias's old mentor. So Earth knew, and someone was coming. A princess in hiding back in the guest room. Zelia sat on the floor holding a tiny hologram cube. Memory. Projection flickered above it, a younger version of herself, standing beside her mother, the Empress. The Empress's voice echoed, to rule is not to feel. You will learn to lead with silence. Zelia paused the projection. She looked up as Elias entered. You heard, didn't you? She asked. Yes, he said. They declared you a traitor. She stood slowly. I expected it. The moment I questioned the Empire, I became the enemy. They won't stop, Elias said. Not until you're dead. She looked him in. The eyes, then I must make them listen before they kill me. He walked closer. How? She took a breath. There's a council summit happening on Neria Prime neutral ground. All major powers will be there. I need to speak publicly. As a royal, if I say the war is wrong, it could shake the empire. Elias blinked. That's suicide. I must try. He studied her face. Fear was there, but deeper still courage. Then I'm coming with you, he said. She shook her head. It's not your fight. Grinned. Made it my fight. The moment I called you sweetie, she blushed again. I remember. He stepped closer. I do too. Rode to Neria Prim the next day. Elias and Zelia stole an old Terran courier, Shiproosti, loud but fast enough. Elias called it the rust bucket. Zelia called it disgusting. Don't worry, he said as they flew. The smell grows on you. I doubt that. They flew in silence for a while, then Zelia asked, Why do you risk so much? For me, Elias didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, Because I've seen enough war, and maybe I believe in you. She looked at him, truly looked. Thank you, she said. Then more softly, darling. He smiled. Say that again? She rolled her eyes. Don't get used to it. Ambushed just 2 days from Nerea Prime, the rust bucket was ambushed. Near a wormhole gate, 2 ships veil a rye bounty. Hunters appeared out of nowhere and opened fire. Elias cursed and pulled the ship into a dive. Hold on to something. Zelia slid into the gunner seat and powered up the defense turrets. She wasn't trained in Terran weapons, but she learned fast. Left side, 40 degrees, Leah shouted. Zelia turned and fired. 1 enemy ship took a hit and veered off, but the second fired a boarding harpoon. A loud metal bang echoed through the ship. They're coming in, Elias yelled. He grabbed his pistol. Zelia drew her blade. The airlock door opened into a group of masked Valari. Soldiers stormed in. Elias fired first, hitting one in the chest. Zelia moved like lightning, her blade dancing between 2 enemies. One reached for Elias. He dodged, hit the man with a wrench and kicked him down. It was fast, brutal, loud. When it was over, both Elias and Zelia were breathing hard, surrounded by stunned bodies. Elias sat down. Bleeding from his shoulder? You okay? He asked. Zelia nodded. You better now. She looked at him. You fight like a fool. Yeah. But I'm your fool. She shook her head, smiling slightly. What am I going to do with you? Hopefully not throw me out the airlock? Arrival at Neria Prime. The spaceport on Neria Prime was massive silver towers rising from a sea of mist. Thousands of ships docking and departing. The air smelled of spice, metal, and tension. Zelia wore a dark cloak, hiding her face. Elias walked beside her, hand on his sidearm. Guards were everywhere. Diplomats from across the galaxy passed by Turians. Lorens, Zalvani, and yes, humans. They reached the summit building, a grand crystal structure, surrounded by force shields. Zelia stopped. This is it, she said. Once I speak, there's no turning back. Elias looked at her. You don't have to do this alone. She smiled. I know. That's why I brought you. The twin suns of Neria Prime cast golden light across the summit hall. The building stood like a crystal tower rising from the planet's mist-covered valley. Leaders from across the galaxy were gathered here, kings, admirals, ambassadors, and high-ranking military officers. Inside the main chamber, there was tension in the air. Everyone knew war between Earth's Terran Republic and the Valar Empire was only a spark away. That spark, however, was already on its way. She wore a dark hood as she walked through the outer gates, her silver boots stepping lightly on the marble floor. By her side, in a slightly torn jacket and patched pants, walked Commander Elias Mercer, human soldier. And depending on who you asked, a hero or a complete fool, princess. Zeliatari Valrune was here to speak, to stop a war, or die trying. The Hall of Voices, the summit chamber, was like a grand theater, with floating platforms where each faction sat Terrans in blue uniforms. Valari nobles in silver robes, alien delegates in many colors and forms. Zelia and Elias stood just outside the center stage, hidden for now. "Are you ready?" Elias asked softly. "No," she said, "but I must do it anyway." She took a deep breath. Her heart raced. She was a princess, yes, but not trained for speeches like this, not trained for peace. Only power, and yet in her heart. She knew this was her path. When the Terran delegate began to speak about recent attacks, blaming the Valari, Zelia stepped forward. "I request the floor," she said clearly, pulling back her hood. Gasps echoed. Through the chamber, one Valari noble stood in shock. The princess? Alive? The Terran generals reached for weapons. "That's a war criminal." "No," Elias shouted, stepping between Zelia and the guards. She came to speak. Let her talk. The High Chancellor of the Samita, four-armed Zelvani named Katuth, raised his staff. "This is neutral ground. Let the speaker talk." Silence followed. All eyes turned to Zelia. "The princess speaks." She stepped forward into the light. "I am Zelia Tari, Valrune, daughter of Empress Varel, first of the royal house, heir to the Valari throne." No one spoke. "I have come to tell the truth, not the story the Empire tells, not the lies whispered into ears at court. The truth." Her voice echoed around the chamber. "We were told humans were monsters, that they would burn our worlds. But I met one, and he made me laugh." Several delegates looked confused. Elias just smiled. "I saw kindness where I was told there was none. I saw courage not only in war but in peace. You say humanity is wild and untamed. But I ask you, what does that make us? The Valari, who started this war?" A Valari noble rose. "You shame your people?" Now she said. "I shame only those who fear peace, those who would let pride drown reason. We do not need to destroy Earth. We need to learn from it." Another voice shouted, "Treason." A third said, "Lies." But Zelia raised her voice. "I am not speaking to rulers or soldiers. I speak to the galaxy, to the children who will grow up under stars. Let them inherit peace, not ash." And then, soft but clear, "I choose peace." Elias stepped beside her, and I believe in her. The shot that shook the stars. For a moment there was silence. Then bang. A gunshot echoed through the hall. Zelia stumbled. A red stain spread across her side. She gasped, her knees hitting the floor. "Zelia!" Elias shouted, catching her before she fell. Guards ran forward. Confusion broke out. People screamed. Elias turned, his face dark with rage. "Where? Who fired?" On one of the Valari platforms, a masked man stood with a smoking pistol, then activated a teleport and vanished in a blink of light. "Coward, traitor, assassin, run." Again Elias held Zelia tightly. "Stay with me. Just stay with me." She blinked, her eyes glassy. "Did I do it?" "Yes," he said. "You did. They heard you. We spoke truth." "I was scared," she whispered. "You were brave." Station guards formed a protective wall around them as medics rushed in. A Terran general stood up. "Commander Mercer, you're under arrest for aiding the enemy." "She's not the enemy," Elias shouted. "She's Valari royalty. She's bleeding on your floor because she chose peace." The Zelvani chancellor slammed his staff. "Enough. No arrests on summit grounds. Both of them are under my protection until she is healed." Elias carried Zelia out with the medics, heart pounding. Not again. He had lost people before. He wouldn't lose her. The Recoveric Celia spent 2 days in the summit's medical wing. Her wound was serious, but not fatal. Advanced healing systems helped to repair the torn tissue. Elias never left her side. He sat by the bed, cleaning his pistol again and again, just to keep his hands busy. When she finally woke up, she found him snoring in the chair beside her. "Hey, sweetie," she whispered. Elias blinked, sat up fast. "You're awake." She smiled weakly. "You look terrible." He laughed. "You got shot giving a speech, and I'm the one who looks bad?" She reached out and touched his hand. Thank you for staying. He gripped her fingers. Always. Consequences outside the recovery room? The galaxy was changing. News of Zelia's speech had spread. Across Terran and Valari systems, people watched the video. Some called her a traitor, others a hero. Protests began, so did discussions. Seed had been planted. The Empress, hearing of her daughter's survival and rebellion, ordered her captured again. But several Valari captains refused. Civil cracks began to form. Meanwhile, the Z group of Terran senators demanded peace talks. The summit had not ended the war, but it had started something else. One night, under the Starzan, the top level of the summit tower, there was a balcony overlooking Neria's glowing fields. The stars above were bright and soft. Zelia stood there in a loose cloak, healing bandage on her side. Elias joined her, holding 2 cups of warm cocoa. He handed one to her. This has sugar in it, he said. Don't freak out. She took a sip. It's sweet. He grinned. Told you. They stood in silence for a while. Then she asked, do you think it will work? The peace? She nodded. He shrugged. Maybe not. But it started with one voice. She looked at him. With 2, their eyes met. So different, so distant. Human and Valari, but not enemies. Not anymore. The stars above Neria Prime sparkled like they had always done, silent, distant, and watching. But something in the galaxy had changed, not through a massive fleet or a mighty weapon, but because one young woman had stood up and spoken the truth, and now that truth had consequences. Inside the summit tower, Princess Zelia Tari Valrune sat alone in a quiet room. Her healing wounds still ached, but her heart ached more. Her speech had started waves across the galaxy, some peaceful, some angry. Some wanted her crowned as a leader of peace, others wanted her executed as a traitor. She looked out the window, lost in thought, and then she heard a voice behind her. You look like a statue, said Elias Mercer, walking in with 2 cups of coffee. She turned, smiling. I was thinking. It's a dangerous habit, he said, handing her the drink. She took a sip. This one has too much sugar. That's how humans live. Zelia laughed softly. No wonder your people are wild. Elias leaned against the wall. We got word this morning. The Empress has ordered a fleet to Neria, full war group. They say it's a diplomatic mission. Zelia's smile faded. She's coming herself, isn't she? Looks like it. There was silence between them. Zelia looked at him. What if she kills me here, in front of the whole galaxy? Elias answered without thinking. Then I'll stop her. She looked into his eyes. You'd fight an empress for me? He stepped closer. I'd fight 1,000 empires. The arrival of the Empress, the Valar fleet arrived 3 days. Later, sleek silver warships floated over Neria like ghosts from a forgotten dream. No one fired, not yet. But every ship in orbit powered their shields. At the summit tower, the leaders of many worlds waited. They stood on balconies, in halls, behind security drones. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Then, from a shining transport vessel, a tall woman stepped out. She wore robes of white and silver. Her eyes were hard as ice. Her presence silenced even the winds. The Empress Varel of the Velari had arrived. Her eyes scanned the crowd. And then she saw her. X-E-L, Ya, standing proud, alive, free. The Empress said nothing as she walked forward, flanked by armored guards. Elias moved protectively in front of Zelia. No, Zelia whispered. Elias stepped aside. Mother and daughter stood face to face. You disobeyed me, the Empress said calmly. I chose peace, Zelia replied. You chose weakness. I chose humanity. The Empress raised an eyebrow. That man corrupted you. Zelia shook her head. No, he saved me. You were to be queen. I will be, but not your kind of queen. The Empress lifted a hand. Her guards stepped forward, but so did the Terran soldiers and the Zelvani peacekeepers, and even the Valari nobles who had secretly come to support. Zelia, the Empress looked around. She understood. The galaxy was watching. This wasn't a battle. It was a test, and she was losing the last. Argument. The Empress stepped closer. Her voice lowered. Do you really believe these? Humans deserve peace. Zelia nodded. Yes, they are wild. Yes, but kind. Bold but honest. They love with everything they have. I would rather live among them than rule beside you. Empress was silent for a long moment. Finally she asked, And what will you do, daughter? I will build something new, Zelia said, a bridge between our peoples, between the stars. And if I die trying, I will die free. The Empress's eyes narrowed. Then she turned, and without another word, walked away. No threats. No speech. Just silence. But everyone in that chamber knew what had just happened. The war had paused a new flame that night. Summit Tower felt different, brighter, calmer. In a quiet garden, beneath silver trees, Leah sat beside Zelia on a bench. You know, he said when I first met you, I thought you were going to stab me. Nearly did, she admitted. You've changed. She looked up at the stars. No, I think I finally became myself. Elias looked at her. You ever think about the future? Sometimes. Want to know what I see? What? I see a ship. A small one. Old. Falling apart maybe. Flying through space. With two pilots arguing about music and rations and diplomacy, she smiled. Sounds chaotic? Sounds fun? They sat in silence for a moment. Then he asked, So? What happens? Now Zelia reached out and took his hand. We build. 3 months later, the Foundation A new space station floated at the edge of neutral space, part Terran design, part Valari architecture, and part alien tech. Its name was simple. The bridge. It is the start of something new, a center for communication, trade, and peacekeeping between former enemies. Soldiers turned into guards, generals into diplomats, while children from both species began to study side by side. Zelia became its voice. Elias became its shield. Together, they became the symbol of hope. Final scene, the dance under stars on the 1st. Unity Day, people gathered on the main deck of the bridge. Music played, laughter echoed, and food from a dozen planets was shared. Zelia stood in a simple silver dress, not as a princess, but as a leader. Elias wore his old jacket, slightly repaired, and way out of place. But he liked it. He walked up to her and bowed. May I have this dance? She raised an eyebrow. Do humans even dance properly? No, but we try. She smiled and took his hand. They danced under the stars, and somewhere in the distance, 2 enemy fleets that had once faced each other in battle turned and went home.